Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Andrew Grove, who's the Managing Director and CEO of Cheshire Resources, an ASX-listed West African focused gold junior mining company with projects in Senegal. And they've discovered two high-grade gold projects at its flagship Diamba Sud project in eastern Senegal. Andrew's a geologist by trade and has become a high-achieving mining and finance executive with an established track record of achieving results, generating profits, identifying opportunities, managing risks, and developing teams during his career. And he's on the podcast today to tell us more about Cheshire Resources and what the obviously future holds for them. So let's welcome Andrew to the podcast. How you doing, Andrew?
Thanks, Rob. Very good, thank you. And appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate your time as well over there in Perth. So as we always start these podcasts off, just wondering if you can give us an overview of yourself and your career before we go into details about the company.
Okay, thanks. Well, as you said, I'm a geologist by training. Did my geology in the School of Mines in Kalgoorlie. Worked as a geologist in and around Australia largely for about 14 years. Worked on, got the opportunity to work on Sunrise Dam development with Billiton, or now Anglo Gold Ashanti. Did a small stint in France with Kajima, looking after the technical reserves over there. And then changed career tracks a little bit and spent 14 years at Macquarie Bank, so doing the mining finance. Started off doing risk management and then went over to origination for the last 10 years, sort of looking at mining finance deals, looking at private equity investments, and a lot of our investments were in West Africa. So we over that period funded a large number of the particularly Australian listed gold developers in West Africa, and then decided it was about time to get back in industry and have a go at sort of management. Spent a couple of years with Perseus Mining, also West African focused, doing their business development and investor relations function. And then this opportunity at Cheshire came up a bit over a year ago. We've obviously keeping an eye on the project under the BD sort of function. Liked the geology, the prospectivity, like the board and management. So it was a great opportunity to get on board, and it's actually exceeded all my expectations since then.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give us an overview of Cheshire Resources.
Oh, sure. Look, it's as you said, it's ASX-listed gold explorer. It's been around for a long time. About 2007, it was in Turkey originally, looking for gold over there. They found some high-grade epithermal gold projects that they sold to the local partner and redistributed the cash back to shareholders. And it came into Senegal in about 2017 on our key projects, the Diamba Sud project, and basically been working up the exploration on that area since then. We sort of made a big technical discovery in terms of the surface geochemistry didn't work early on, and the company at the time put some auger drilling through, so you drill through the laterites, and actually identified a very significant gold geochemical anomalous system, which has since expanded because we've got Barrick exploring right next door to us to the east. So it's sort of a 15 by 15 kilometre geochem signature anomalous area that historically hadn't been seen. So look, the area's only had 3 years of drilling, and we made our main discovery mid-2020 at the Diamba Sud over Area D. Okay.
And obviously you've more recently joined them, but why did Cheshire look at Senegal as a jurisdiction? Was there some underlying issues why you then decided to move forward and work in Senegal?
Look, I think they're looking for opportunities globally, but Senegal came up. Senegal's a great investment jurisdiction. It's one of the most stable democracies in West Africa. It's got a modern mining code, which is really well supported by the government. It's got very prospective ground, particularly the east of Senegal. Where we are at Diamba Sud, basically on the Senegal-Mali shear zone, the second most prolific gold belt in West Africa after the Ashanti Belt. Very little exploration on the Senegal side, lots of exploration on Mali, just across the border, there's Lulu, Gonkotto, Fekola, tier 1 gold mines. Gonkotto's 7 k's away from the project, and it's the same rock types. So it prospectively looked really good. As an investment jurisdiction, it looked really good. A couple of modern gold mines have been developed in the country, externally funded, which we were involved with in Macquarie and Sabadala. All those debts have been repaid. They've both been sold on the market, and the government's very supportive of that sort of mining business. And to go to the investment quality of the country, Woodside, Australian oil and gas business, is spending $4.5 billion on an offshore oil and gas development currently. So it's a great place to do business, and security-wise, it's very safe.
Yeah, Cheshire has recently outlined a robust, high-value potential future gold mine. Obviously, the project that we've been speaking about. In this obviously scoping study that was released in March. Would you like to sort of discuss some of the key attributes of that study?
Sure, I'd love to. It's my favourite subject. Look, so as I said, we made our maiden discovery mid-2020, high-grade supergene mineralisation in Area D. Subsequently, we found more mineralisation 300 metres next door to it in Area A. We put a maiden resource estimate of 781,000 ounces out in late last year. And then also in December last year, we found a new discovery, which we're currently drilling. So it's only the first point. The resource of 780,000 ounces had a lot of attributes that would lead itself to being quite economic, shallow, big high grade component. There's nearly 500,000 ounces at 3 grams. So we undertook the scoping study to sort of demonstrate the economics bona fides of the project. And what the scoping study delivered was really there's a technically simple, robust, high value future gold development at Diamba Sud, which is going to grow with the resources as we grow the resources. But currently, NPV of in Aussie dollar terms, $420 million, which is relative to our $70 million market cap, but $300 million NPV, 59% IRR. Importantly, only a 15-month payback, very rapid payback, particularly over that Area D high-grade mineralisation that's near surface. 7.5-year mine life on the current resources, producing slightly under 100,000 ounces a year at all-in site costs of $820 an ounce. 70% of the resources are indicated, so there's a reasonable level of confidence over those. We can't call them reserves yet because we haven't done the feasibility study. And 96% of that initial resource actually converted into a mining inventory under the scoping study. The first 2 years are exceptionally robust to that supergene mineralisation Area D. It's produces 244,000 ounces at $545 an ounce, strip ratio of 1.9, free dig. The life of mine strip ratio is only 2.8. It's really, really simple land. In terms of, we don't see any impediments of a future development. It's really close to the sealed national highway, 7 kilometres from water. We won't physically impact significantly on people. There's no villages or artisanal activity. There are neighbouring villages which we have very close association and formalised programs with, and they will hopefully benefit from the future development. Metallurgy simple, high recoveries, between 94 and 96%. Simple contract open pit mining. But importantly, it's a really good result, but it's going to get bigger, and we think we are drilling. Got a big drill program underway to expand those resources, and internally we have an aim to increase the mining inventory to plus 1 million ounces this year and continue growing that beyond that point.
Obviously, you mentioned about your current drilling to increase the source base. I just wonder if you can just elaborate on that and obviously the potential gold area.
Sure. Look, the current drill program, we tend to drill up until the end of June, early July when it starts raining. So Q3 is sort of wet and makes it difficult to get around site. So our drill season breaks up around that. So the current drill program, which should finish by then, is sort of 15 to 20,000 metres, really focused on increasing that mining inventory and getting it to the plus million ounce mark. Large part of that is focused on the new discovery, Karakara, which is less than a kilometre away from the Area D resource. We found that in November last year. We defined 125 metres of mineralised strike open along long strike and at depth, and we've since put in about 5,000-6,000 metres around that at the moment, and we should be getting results out of that in the next few weeks, hopefully. And then we're also expanding some resources around the existing resource areas A and D. We're going to test a couple of the other prospective targets, and there's lots of targets on the project that have had very little drilling. This whole area has only had drilling in it, proper drilling in it, for 3 years. So it is delivering a lot. We've probably tested 3 or 4 anomalies, and we've definitely got 3 bits of economic mineralisation, and the Western Splay probably has some mineralisation, a bit lower tenor, but if you've got a plant within a couple of kilometres of it, it certainly works. But the area is sort of, as I said before, it's a big geochemical footprint. It's in the same rocks as Lulu and Gonkotto. It's on the major structures that feed a lot of gold mineralisation just over the border in Mali. And as I said, Barrick are exploring actively next door to us. So it's an emerging gold camp in reality. It's Barrick have identified numerous mineralisation occurrences. They declared an emerging discovery at KB West, which is within 3 kilometres of our tenement boundary to the east, on the same structures that feed A and D and Karakara. So it's an emerging gold camp, and in reality, it will deliver, multi-million ounces, whether it's these smaller high-grade projects that we've been delineating, and certainly, there's some depth extensions or depth repeats that need to be worked out. The geology is a little bit complicated, or it hides a big deposit. That's certainly Barrick's view, given that they're mining Lulu and Gonkotto with the same rock types across the border. They really understand this stuff pretty well. So. It's an emerging gold camp. It will deliver multi-million ounces. It's whether it's, it hides the big one or smaller high value ones, but there's certainly high value. And, I think there's paying a lot of attention from Barrick. Barrick have been reporting this over there in their quarterlies over the last couple of years.
That's good to hear. Looking more into, I suppose, the future, what's the next for the Diamba Sud project, gold project? And when are you likely to start producing gold?
Okay, look, it's it was a bit of a rush because we only just found the gold mid 2020 and maiden resource estimate in November and scoping study in March. But there's clearly a developable project, a high value developable project here, and we believe with the resource increase to over 1 million ounces, that's a 10-year project, 100,000 ounces, very rapid payback. So it's a real project. So we're doing a 2-pronged strategy. We're going to continue aggressively drilling to expand the resources and test the potential of the project and some of the other anomalies that haven't had a lot of work. But in the background, we're undertaking a DFS study. We've commenced our environmental ESIA baseline work. That takes about 12 months to collect all the environmental and social and data to get to a point where you can go and apply for a mining license. So we're thinking that 12 to 18 months we'll be in a position that we can make a development decision. We'll have finished our DFS. We'll have got licenses, mining approvals from the government, and we'll have organised financing and things like that in that time. And then it's a 15-month build, and at this stage, and so we should. In that sort of time frame, we should hopefully be able to pour first gold of the project, and I think we'll be here for a long, long time finding gold and producing gold.
Yeah, and obviously you've been in West Africa for a while now. How have you seen the West African mining market develop, and also how is Senegal different to sort of some of the other neighbouring West African mining jurisdictions?
Yeah, look, on an ASX perspective, it takes a bit to get the Australian investors particularly aware and interested in West African stories. Certainly West Africa, you can find really good deposits, but in WA, if you find half a deposit, the market goes silly around it. So, I think the Australian market likes mining, but it's a little bit xenophobic in terms of understanding of Africa. You do get the UK base, and certainly North Americans understand it reasonably well. But once you get recognition, it does come, and our relative trading value between our scoping study and what potential project is versus where we are now, that gap closes over time. They do recognise it. Lowest cost gold producers on the ASX, and finding deposits that are really, really high value. So, but in terms of Senegal, look, I think stability-wise, Senegal's it's probably on the top one or two of those countries in West Africa. I think the only drawback in Senegal is for gold, prospective rocks are sort of shoved into the eastern third of the country. But look, it's a great place to do business and a safe jurisdiction. So, we don't have some of the issues that some of the other countries are having at the moment.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously certain groups of people would consider maybe investing in the West African market, because obviously you're in a country that is mining is your number one industry. Who are those select types of people that will look at your projects in West Africa if mining is on your doorstep?
Look, there's always investors that like the African stories because you can find really good deposits. There are specialist mining funds that do like the same thing. But in terms of other people, in terms of operating peers, they all need growth. Every company, no matter how much growth they have, and it's really hard to generate that growth 100% through exploration success. So a lot of the mining companies who are operating in West Africa are looking for growth opportunities, and a lot of that's got to get driven by M&A activity rather than 100% through the drill bit. So yeah, look, it's a broad range of investors and mining companies that do keep an eye on what's going on around the place. Okay.
Cheshire also recently completed an oversubscribed raising of 12 million Aussie. Are we to assume that the company is sort of well funded to undertake the next phase of the project development with that raising?
Yeah, no, look, we are, and it was a great response from existing and new shareholders. So, we got bids and well and truly over $21 million. We had the capacity to take up to 12, so we did that. And that gives us, with our existing balance sheet, that gives us, quite a war chest to go and aggressively pursue the drilling and undertake all the studies in the background, and that'll get us a long way down the path to getting this project into a position where it'll be a new mine.
And as a conclusion, what's the outlook for the next sort of 12 or the rest of this year going into next year? And have you got any sort of final comments as well?
Yeah, look, next 12 months is going to be pretty busy for Cheshire. It's been busy for the last 18 months or so. So, we defined the scoping study, which has, really significant value, strong economics. I think we've demonstrated that it's a future mine development on the site. The next phase of work is going to be about technically de-risking that, but significantly adding value to it by expanding the size of it through drilling, through adding to the resource base. And look, as I talked about, the drill program's underway. We should start seeing assays come out in the next few weeks, and they'll be initially around the new discovery at Karakara. That's not in the resource base. That's not part of the study. We think that'll go a long way to delivering that sort of internal goal of plus 1 million ounces. So we'll have the next 12 months, we'll have lots of drilling information, news flow and resource upgrades, and potentially upgrade to the scoping study. And in the background, we'll be doing the technical work to de-risk it and bring it to the point where we can make that investment decision.
Yeah. Andrew, thank you for giving us an overview of obviously Cheshire Resources, and really good luck for the rest of this year with all the drilling. Obviously, it seems that you're in a really good jurisdiction. Obviously, you've got Barrick next door doing their thing as well. So wish you well for the rest of this year. Perhaps you want to come onto the podcast later this year and give us an update on some of the results. I'm sure our audience would be interested in that.
I really appreciate it, Rob, and you know, I'll be happy to be involved later on, and when we've got a bit more news flow to talk about, and an update on the project.
No worries. And if our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? Are you on social media?
Oh, yeah, sort of. No, look, my contact details are on the back of all the releases and the presentation on our website, which is www.cheshireresources.com.au. It's pretty easy to find my email and contact details there. So please, I'm happy to field any questions of any interested parties.
Yeah, no worries. Really appreciate your time. And like I said, good luck for the rest of this year. Those that are listening, appreciate if you can share this episode amongst your friends, family, if they're involved in mining, and obviously other colleagues that you know in the industry. Appreciate your continued support. If obviously you watch it on the YouTube channel, appreciate if you can comment below and maybe share this episode, so the algorithms start working and push this episode out to others that are maybe in the mining industry or may invest in the mining industry. So really appreciate your continued support, and until next time, happy mining.